Here, let's sit right here by this.
You guys. Yeah, but
Even though well, yeah, a couple minutes later, he said, "Can I get hopefully we'll see it."
yeah. So here's the thing, Jen and Taylor are just for 2 weeks, and so
In December.
They need to, because they're more important than we
teaching subject.
Does anyone know of anybody who's on their way and not made it yet? I know there's some traffic in Barnesville, and I just want to see if anybody knew of somebody who's trying to get here and not here yet.
Jonathan's coming.
Okay.
He said it would be close to 4 or 4 when he got here.
So we can wait for a few minutes. I also didn't want to keep everybody just sitting here if nobody was gonna show up. So might just wait just a couple minutes to see if anybody else can make it.
Looking for the return boy. She was giving Danny a lecture about and it was a novel concept.
There were four people
Thank you for all for being here. My name is Rick Carmichael, and I want to especially again say thank you for coming and remember David Hobson, a father, a loving husband, a grandfather, a pretty big fan. I think maybe red was his favorite color. David also was a gentleman, someone that would go out of his way to help someone who needed help, never said no, was always there if you made a phone call, helped me out of a few teenage blunders and a few things that I managed to get in. Knew David a long time and loved him very much. So as we come here to remember him, to celebrate him, if you'd all take a moment of silence with David and his family to remember him and remember all those memories and all of those things that he gave back to all of us. Thank you very much. We're now Jason's gonna step up, David's son, and with a few words about his dad, and I'm sure some memories.
thank you all for coming. And when I speak, I don't normally like to read or stand behind the podium. Those are two of the worst things you can do when speaking, but given this occasion, I wanted to make sure I have my thoughts pretty clear. So I did go ahead and write this out. So forgive me. I'll try not to be boring. I know you wouldn't like that. It's under very unexpected circumstances that we gathered here today. A few years ago, I had the honor of speaking in this room in the remembrance of my maternal grandfather. And for him, I had plenty of time because he was in his 90s and declined for a good while. And so I had time to think about what I wanted to say. This is different and a little bit hard. I had a couple of days, but I'm going to try to do the best I can to remember Dad and encapsulate the man he was to all of us. He and I were, in some ways, very different. He was as extroverted and outgoing as I am quiet and introverted. We always joke that he was the immature one and I was the mature one. May not have been too far from the truth, actually. But despite these differences, we shared a lot in common, and I feel like that I modeled a lot of the person I am.
Still working.
Person I am often. There's a saying by the Stoic philosophers that roughly translates to, remember that you too will die. And that may be an odd thing to start a funeral with, and also the dad wasn't a very good Stoic as well, but it's something I think he understood. Some of you may not know that Dad lost his mother when he was 17, and his sister and brother-in-law when he was 19. And when I was young, I would ask him what he was doing when he was listening to music late at night. He would stay up until 2 in the morning, listen to music, listen to albums and records. And he said he was spending time with folks who were no longer there. And I knew he was being with those people that he had lost. And I had the thought that he was spending time with ghosts, just in a very friendly way. And that I could tell, even as a young child, that those experiences and that loss shaped him as a person. And, I think he was aware of how fragile life was, and that people could be not there. And what I think that did for him is to make relationships the most important thing in his life. It was everything to him, whether it was friends or family or coworkers or students or players or fraternity brothers, relationships were utmost importance to him. And I'm very grateful that he and I had a very close relationship and a very easy relationship. There's not a lot I would want to say to him. This things he's not going to see. But we knew where we were. We had for a long time. It's easier in some ways, knowing that there was nothing needed to be said, or was left unsaid between us. And so many of you are here today because of the way you put relationships first. His generosity, his infectious enthusiasm for whatever he was doing, whether it was teaching or coaching or throwing parties or cooking for parties or just everything, was done with that intensity and that enthusiasm and that love for what he was doing. I felt like could walk up to anybody on the street and start a conversation, any place in the world. And within a matter of minutes, the person would feel like that they'd known him for years. I don't share that skill. I can talk in front of people, I can talk to groups of people, but starting a conversation with somebody I don't know is terrifying. And for him, it was the easiest thing in the world. That warmth just shone through, people just immediately connected with him. You know, that trick may not have worked so well on Mom the first night. Well, it worked a little bit, but maybe not as well as he wanted, because after she yelled down 8 delts from the balcony, I managed to get up into her room, got a little too forward, and ended up getting locked on the balcony for the rest of the night. They figured it out maybe the next day, and it didn't take long before they had a pretty special relationship. And amazing to see them through the years, all the things they did. They cared for us, and our kids. Something that's pretty rare these days to see a relationship last that long. And yet, able to deal with all the ups and downs and things that come. You know, there are so many stories about his kindness and his friendship, his care for other people. I remember him talking to students on the phone that had graduated years before who had a problem and called it. And we would call and talk for hours to all this going on in their lives. He visited another student in prison for years, every month. That had a bit of a rough patch and ended up in jail, and every month he went to see him for a long time. That was the kind of person he was. I have a letter here that Dave Huffine, a fraternity brother and a longtime friend, wrote, but it shows a little bit about that side of who Dad was. It says, Hubbard, as we all know, was the very definition of a friend. But to many of the beta alpha delts of our generation, he was more than that. David was the glue that kept many of us together and caused us to touch base with each other at least once or twice a year. For me, it all started with our stupid annual bet on the 500 while still undergrads. The loser bought the stakes, and we somehow managed to get together at least once a year for the payoff dinner. Even when we lived 1,000 miles apart, the Hobsons and the Huffines found a way. In later years, Steve Bailey joined us, and we decided to golf as well. We made a stupid trophy out of funnels and beer openers and called it the Wide Open. Later, Dave expanded it, and with a few of our brothers, it grew and grew. He taught me that in order to stay friends, a tradition must happen that makes people get together on a regular basis or it fades away. Dave was the glue that adhered our friendships. We have lost a lot. He will slowly be missed. Love you, man. Now, Jen's going to share some of the reflections from family and kids.
Jen is going to reflections. As well, I'm going to read this. It's good to have everyone here today for my dad. Over the years, I've heard or been a part of some of the stories, but heard so many others of the fun times that you all spent together, which has really meant a lot to my dad. He was a master at bringing people together, making everyone feel welcome to enjoy the friendship, the love, and the laughter of when we all came together. I'm sure he's smiling down at us today, having all of us together at most from. Probably a little bit upset that he's not here with us to join, because he always liked a good time. And my dad always told me he didn't want a funeral, he wanted a party. So we're going to have him that party, so everybody note down the date of July, but we will celebrate this properly, the life of my father, on Lake Living, with the beer, the Coke, having a good time. First, I'd like to start with a few words that my mom wanted to share. For over 50 years, you have been my husband, my partner, my knight in shining armor, and my best friend, all rolled into one. Sure, there are days that we drive each other crazy, but their number don't even come close to all the projects, the sunset cruises, trips to the beach, and quiet dinners at home that we have shared together. When we were just kids, we got married, but we soon managed to find a balance to our relationship, and together, we raised 2 children and 4 beautiful grandchildren. And all through it all, you treated me like a princess. So for me as well, as his daughter, I've always known how lucky I was to have him as my father. He's always been there for me, to listen without judgment, with a calming patience. And even in my teenage years, where I felt screaming was an appropriate means of communication, he would let me talk or scream, not cut me off and let me get it all out. Then after I stopped, he would say, "Jenny, are you done yet?" Pause, and then we would start discussing calmly the point at hand. And it always ended in a big hug at the end. At 14, drove me crazy. At 43, with 2 children now, I can say very good parenting advice. He's been my coach my whole life. From the early years, I, like my father, played lots of sports, basketball, volleyball, and ran track. He was always there to encourage me and push me to do better, to make that extra effort. For instance, I don't know why, but I chose to run the 400 meters in track. And as for me, that last 100 meters was the worst. What my dad did was he would stand at the 300-meter mark, rain, snow, rain, or shine, to be there for that last 100 meters to cheer me on, to encourage me to be able to get over the finish line. This carried off into my life in general. He was always there in those challenging times to give me those encouraging words to carry me through. The life lessons he held so tight: kindness, treating others with respect, with compassion, keeping a positive outlook on a situation at hand, and most importantly, taking the high road, not the easy one. These 2 have shaped the person I've become today. As many of you know, he's always there to lend a helping hand. He's my Mr. Fix-It. Even when living in France, he was my handyman, helping out with projects when visiting for holidays or bringing the kids back after their summer at Lake London. And of course, being my mother's daughter, I too had a to-do list for him once he got there. And when he couldn't be there in person, he took on the role as my virtual handyman, using FaceTime to give me advice on how to try to fix things myself. He made me laugh though. According to my dad, the hardware stores in France are nothing compared to Menards. So he was often frustrated they didn't have the right tool, the right part that could so easily be found here to get the job done. But he never gave up. He always found some way to piece it together to fix the problem. He's always been there when it mattered most, even when I was 2,000 miles away. Yet it's not only Jason and I who have benefited. My dad has shared his kindness and goodwill to many. I've heard the expression, "He's like my second dad," many, many times. And I know for Omar, he holds it strong in his heart. When I brought Omar over from Paris for the first time to meet my parents, they both opened their arms and welcomed him to the family. However, straight away, I could see a strong connection between he and Omar. They had similar views in life, and overall, a common happiness to crack jokes and to kid each other all the time. I quickly realized I was in trouble. For my dad, Omar was far more than just a father-in-law or a second dad. On top of it all, he was his true friend. And from a father to a grandfather, it was wonderful for me and for Jason to see my dad sharing those fun things we used to do growing up with our children. So I asked the 4 grandkids to share some of their favorite memories of Grandpa. So I'm going to read you a list. The first, the fun nicknames he had for each one. So Ben is Butch, Clyde is Goofball, Natasha is Silly Goose, and Parker is the crazy guy. Making bacon and eggs for breakfast which Parker and my dad often shared pictures in France of eating bacon. Parker likes bacon quite a lot. Learning how to cut the grass. The crazy tubing rides with Grandpa driving a boat, which I too have fond memories of tubing on a lake. However, as the parent of the kid on the tube, I found myself saying, "Slow down, Grandpa, they could get hurt." He'd quickly give me a smirk and continue on. Another one of their memories was learning how to drive the boat while sitting on Grandpa's lap, which I'm sure you've all seen in pictures on the screen. And then making sure that the boat cover was put back on the boat and done correctly, as Ben pointed out. Teaching Lyda and Ben how to ski at Peoli Peaks, which, from what I understand, the first lesson started by showing them how to click on the skis, take a few small ski steps, and then push them over and told them to learn how to get up. Another one that they shared was looking up into the stands and sports games and seeing him and Grandma are sitting to cheer them on. And of course, tucking them in at night, pulling the blanket up and wrapping it closely under their chin with a tucka, which he did the same for me. And honestly, last summer, at 43 years old, he still did it. This started, I'm going to finish with something that Lyda wanted me to share. One of the stories she has of Grandpa, her and Ben, which I think really sums up who he was as a grandpa. So on a particularly nice summer evening, when my brother, Ben, and I, Lyda, were younger, we hatched a plan to trick Grandpa into letting us push him into the lake under the carefully constructed guise of wanting him to see a really cool fish at the end of the dock. However, as Grandma reminded us, his hearing aids would of course have to come out before we could push him in. Naturally, the solution was to explain to him that the really cool fish in question was so cool that he needed to take out his hearing aids to fully appreciate it. Miraculously, he agreed, and I, wholeheartedly, believing that we were true masterminds, led the march down to the dock. So when he leaned over on the edge of the dock to see the imaginary fish, Ben and I gave him a shove. But instead of falling neatly into the water, he grabbed Ben and I and took him down too. I managed to evade this maneuver and took off from the scene of the crime. But in no time at all, Grandpa chased me down and tossed me into the lake right next to Ben. That evening, I learned two things about Grandpa. He didn't get mad, he just got even. And he always had time to spend with the people he loved, even if it meant ending up soaking wet and late to start the grill. It's hard to say goodbye today, but I know his memory will remain strong in our hearts, and his loving, kind-hearted spirit living on with us each day. So I always tell him before I left that I love you, Dad. But I love you more.
So those memories are just some of the hundreds of moments he was able to, in which he was able to make us laugh and help us to feel loved and make our lives a little brighter. His ability to put others at ease and have them feel they're the most important person in the room made him ideally suited to be a teacher. He worked at Ben Davis Junior High School for 33 years and taught health and phys ed and U.S. history and coached football. In that time, he had the chance to reach hundreds of young men and women, some of whom still reach out to him today. We love to teach and to coach and have a chance to make a difference in their lives as students and players. He also truly loved the people he had a chance to work with for so many years and often commented on how they made difficult situations of whatever was happening at school so much easier and so much better. I can see the effect of that caring and dedication in the faces of his former students and players who would seemingly meet them everywhere. hear the shout of, Mr. Hobson, Mr. Hobson. Turn around to see who it was. And I could feel that deep camaraderie among his colleagues when I would go with him as a child to school or stop by the IU tailgates or the parties at the lake and just see what years of friendship and working together could build between people. He had a huge impact on me as a person, as a father, and as a friend, but also as a teacher to me. And I wanted to share a few of the things that he was able to teach me. He taught me how to listen. By listen, I don't mean just kind of wait for the other person to get done talking. I mean actually really focus on what they're saying and hear what they're trying to get across. And it was part of how he was able to connect with people and have them feel so important. He was well ahead of his time in the emotional intelligence kind of world that people talk a lot about now in business and teaching. He had that down decades ago. Although the listening part got harder as his hearing failed, it got more difficult for him actually hearing the words, but he still was focused on what you were saying and wanted to make sure he was hearing. He taught me how to see in the dark. When we go camping as kids, he would take us on walks at night, and he would not allow us to bring a flashlight. I'm like, what? Don't bring a flashlight, it's dark, right? No, that's what I like to see. Go find out. He would walk a few feet, and he would stop, and just let your eyes adjust, just wait, and slowly shapes would materialize out of the dark, and be able to see, and keep walking. We're walking out on camp in Brown County, all around the lake, and all it's dark outside, and we're walking at night. And it showed me that I don't need lights, and then often kids need for we do a farm market at night, I'll be mowing or bailing, and it's dark, I don't have lights on yet, because I like to use what light's there to see, right? Versus having the lights on, let's see a little bit versus a much wider field of view. So I still use those skills, but more importantly, on a different level, it gave me the confidence that if things don't seem right, just be patient, and the answers will show up. He taught me to use and care for tools, and to have respect to know how to fix things versus just throw them out. Taught me to build with care and respect. Taught me to take the time to do things right, even if it annoys the pants off of people you're working with. He taught me to work with others. And I would dare say his colleagues here today would agree that in addition to other things that have been shared about him, the thing that made Dad unique as a coworker was his humility. After he retired, he came to work with me in our construction business and some of the farms that I ran. And he just came to work. He said, it's your show, he's here to help. And I don't know of too many dads that could have done that. Just kind of given over the reins to their son like that. And for better or worse, just been there to do what was needed. And that didn't matter if it was on logs at below 0 temperatures, shoveling cow manure, running tractors, wrapping bales till 3 in the morning, right? He was there to do it, and never asked why, never complained. It was always, even if it was hard and not fun, he had that twinkle in his eye. It showed that he was there to support me, and just glad to be able to work together. So many fathers and sons have difficulty working together. Or just having a relationship, right? And I feel very lucky that we have the chance to not only have that kind of relationship, but just to do all those things together. We get to the point where we'd be handing each other tools like the second before somebody needed it, like a wrench or a chisel or a hammer, we just had to have it wait. Because we knew each other, we knew the work we wanted to be done. He taught me to laugh, and most especially to laugh when things are not easy. One of our jobs, I had left to go get stuff in town about 30 minutes away, and not very long after I left, he made a misstep and fell 9 feet to the basement floor of the house we were building. Landed on the concrete, broke several ribs, and couldn't get up. probably laid there for an hour and a half, I would say, before I got back. And they just got a cell phone, but of course the cell phone didn't work in the basement, way out of the country where we were, right? So I got back and yelled for him, and like, in the basement. And I dropped to the ladder, like, how'd you get in the basement? He's like, I jumped. You know, and so it got a ladder, went down to the basement, and, you know, got him back, somehow back up, you know, like, I know it just killed him, but the whole time we were just like laughing about all the things that could have happened, or all the things he was gonna have to tell mom when he got home, you know, and, you know, just in so much pain, and all they could think to do was to crack jokes. Make it easier, easier on me. He taught me to love music. We grew up surrounded by music. Denver, James Taylor, Carly Simon, Diana Ross, Marvin Gaye, the Pointer Sisters, Rolling Stones, the Commodores, Temptations, Simon and Garfunkel, and countless others. Always music, always. Made mixtapes with the neighbors and traded them back and forth. Sang at night when we were driving the van to Florida, keep himself awake and thought nobody could hear. We had dance parties at the beach to the oldies for hours. Once, when I was 12, and I think he was tired of me listening to crappy top 40 music, he got out Led Zeppelin 2 and put it on the turntable and cranked the speakers. And the house shook. And suddenly, the top 40 Casey Kasem didn't quite seem so significant, and it seemed kind of small compared to that kind of music. And another night, we played We Teach Your Children by Crosby, Stills and Nash. And talked about how difficult his relationship was with his dad, and how he always wanted to get it right and wanted it to work, but it just never could. There was too much in the way. And I know when his father died, earlier than they thought, how much that was hard on him, that he really connect with it. You want he and I to be different. Taught me how to hug. He had a rule about hugs. That was never be the first one to let go. It's very comforting to somebody, but you know, I'm there for it, right? But I caught on to that, and so after a while, we'd hug and be like, all right, you first. No, you first. No, you first. All right. Taught me how to watch the sunset, whether at the beach or the lake. I'll tell you, I've been to the lake. Most summer evenings revolved around watching the sunset. And if that dinner after dark, and mom's carefully prepared plans were thrown off, had to watch the sunset. And that was either with a Manhattan and some peanuts on the deck, or it was floating in the water with a beer. I think that was his way of just connecting, with that peace that he was trying to find in his life, and really helped to center. And for him, peace and joy and connectedness weren't something you got in a building, or from somebody with special funny clothes on, right? They were available, very ready, every night at sunset. He taught me to be comfortable with silence. We go on car trips together, or we get on a sailboat, or we're just, just working, watching the sunset. We talk, but often we wouldn't talk. And it wasn't as much from a lack of things to say, it was because of all the things that had been said already. We weren't trying, we didn't have to talk to fill the space. It was already full. From the fullness of how much we meant to each other, how much we loved each other. Everything that we had done over the years. And we get back and I'm like, what did you guys talk about? kind of look at each other and say, nothing. It's so difficult to sum up, see such a person who has such a great personality and meant so much to many people. I have a couple of just thoughts that I think are important to share. And one is that with the pain and loss that he suffered in his life, it would have been very easy to go down a path of bitterness and to push people away and to really dwell on the loss and the pain that he had felt. But he chose not to do that. And he chose to do the opposite. He chose to always try to bring people closer, bring people together. He wasn't doing it, for get some leverage or advantage, or he didn't read about it in a book. He just did it because it was who he was and it was the right thing to do. And he couldn't help but do that. He had to. All of you are bearing witness to that by being here today and very people. Another way to say that, is he knew how to love completely without complete understanding. He loved people unconditionally, no strings, no conditions. And that no matter what the disagreement, what the frustration was, what the argument was, you could come back from that. Because of just how important that relationship was. That was the most important thing, that relationship. Not whatever the thing in disagreement was about. That friendship, that marriage, that was the most important. The effect of that was to convey to us that we were loved and unconditionally accepted. And I can't think of a more precious gift that a man can give his wife, his children, his family, his friends, his co-workers, or students. It's the kind of gift that can transcend the necessity for bodily presence. It doesn't need to be here physically for us to feel that warmth and that love. So if sometime if you're watching a sunset or you're listening to your favorite music at night, or you're having dinner with your family or your friends, or holding someone you love, and you feel someone nearby you can't quite see, but you know is there, and you feel them smiling, you'll know who it is.
Thank you both for those great memories and the great memories of a great band. I ask you all to join me in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive them that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. We'll direct your attention to the front now. We have a video of David, again with a lot of great memories, a lot of great pictures, and a lot of smiles from David.
We're going to end with a little poem that if you do that, you've heard this in some version over the years, so can they come up? And y'all welcome to recite along with us. Yeah. All right. So friends may come and friends may go. One's not here with us, you know, but we'll be friends through thick and thin. And in our hearts, you'll always be in. Thank you very much for coming today.
Again, thank you all for coming, and just a couple words that I think David lived by. Enjoy life. He put a lot of good memories. He lived a very full life. He never backed off. There was something he wanted to do, something he wanted to attempt, he did. So when you wake up in the morning, be glad, live life to the fullest, and never look back. There'll be a celebration of life in July. There's a flyer out front. Please pick one up. Love to have you all there and to celebrate David's life. Please be safe going home.
You've told me that many